Welcome to the Daybreak Star Radio Network, coming to you from Seattle, our very proud international radio networks spanning across the globe, multiple countries, multiple cities and states. We wanted to go into this holiday weekend with a special interview. And we're honored to be talking to Bryan from Blackhawk Singers. I believe you're out of Rhode Island. I can hear it in the accent. You know, you're a couple miles away from us, right? You know?
Yeah, no, you've picked up on the accent. The phone number definitely dictates the Rhode Island area. But right now I'm living in Abenaki territory. So I'm living, I moved up to Vermont and purchased a house on what is now a dead-end street. And I found out afterwards that it was the main thoroughfare for Abenaki people right through Vermont. And there are some 40 to 41 villages in the higher lands where I'm living. So singing in the language up here just has a whole nother meaning for me, you know. So it's been pretty cool. That's far more special than being down in Rhode Island and doing what I'm doing, you know. But yeah.
Well, so tell everybody who you are, and any of your where you're from history that you would like to put out there too.
Yeah, my name is Bryan Blanchette. I'm Abenaki, and you know, I grew up in Rhode Island knowing my native heritage, but not really knowing any of my native heritage. And one day I needed to prove it. Somebody, you know, the whole do you have a car? It just kind of hit me, and I went, huh? You know. But this is, you know, it's 20-something years ago. And I went to my grandmother's grave and prayed, but I couldn't find the grave. I'm in the general area and like, please help me. And then the thought to go to the rectory came to mind. So I went to the rectory where my grandparents were married. And then I went, the priest told me to go to this genealogical society. And thank God for me, there was someone there that was of indigenous descent, another Abenaki man. And I said, hey, I'm looking for my indigenous heritage. And they went, well, go talk to that guy. He's Indian. So I walked over to him. He started laughing. And he said, they don't want to find Indian blood here. They want to find French blood. It's a French-American genealogical society. And then within minutes, found, you know, one village near the Abenaki Reserve, and then went right back to Fort Chambly. So my grandmother's family, the Robert name, is listed at Fort Chambly, a private marrying an Algonquin Abenaki woman in 1708, and they stayed there until 1788. So 80 years, kids growing up on a fort in one of the darkest times in U.S. history.
Wow.
And when I went there and visited the fort and saw what I was looking at, it explained a lot, you know. So for me, what I'm doing is, you know, years ago when I you know, with Bobby Charlebois, I was now crossed over, and that's the person who introduced me to this, introduced me to playing on a powwow drum. I'd already gone to Berklee College of Music, so this is a whole nother way of looking at things for me, really, right? Wanting to be as pure and raw and organic as possible. But Bobby had always said that our songs were sung in a lower register, and we were doing a lot of you know, Southern style songs because we could sing like that. And he wanted to write the songs, write new songs in the language. And there was an elder that had crossed over. He wanted the same thing. So it was somebody that was on my drum. At the time we started writing songs, we had a couple songs together. And I said, hey, at the time we were more of a family drum, you know, and with the kids and everything. And I'm like, let's go up to Abenaki, you know, the main Abenaki Reserve, right? And let's see what happens. They may throw rocks at us. They may throw tomatoes at us. They may critique what we're saying or how we're pronouncing things. And we did. And so that was like 2011. 2011 was the first time up there. We had a couple of songs under our belt. And my guys were all nervous because there was a drum group from Ganawagi, you know, really good competition drum from Ganawagi. And I'm like, no, we'll be fine. And we sang our warm-up, and we were invited to sing the first song for dancing. And I went, no, I can't do that. We've got to clear that with them. I'm not just going to jump up there. If he's okay with it, you know, then I'm okay with it. I came back, and everything was fine. And you know, so we sang like one of the, and it was a sweeter melody song called Join Us in the Circles. Our first thing we really wrote together. And we noticed that people used to dance on the stage up there, like they had a mass, and because the Catholic Church really controls it. They would. But when we started singing, everybody came off the stage and they danced around us like they were honoring us, and it felt so uncomfortable when I first experienced it. And then that just kept happening. And I think gradually through the day, that was the first time at the powwow up there. That may have been the way, but there's no stage up there now. It's done it's been done like a regular powwow. But yeah, we hit it off so well with Red Tail Spirits, a drum from Ganawagi, and had a great time. And we did it for 6 or 7 years, until like 2018, I think was the last time I was up there. And we were asked to write by the Canadian Minister for Aboriginal Veterans at the time. We were asked to write a flag song and a veteran song, which we did. Mm-hmm. And it was just, it was one of those moments where you're really not expecting anything like that, and for it to all organically fall into place. Like we didn't have an in at the powwow. We didn't know. We went up there. We had a few contacts, but Steve Benedict, the war chief at the time, he saw us and he said that we played outside the house of the former war chief, right on the main road of the reservation, just to draw as much attention and empower the man whose house we were at. And Steve Benedict walked up to the chief and said, they drove 7.5 hours to sing, and they're going to sing. Now, Steve Benedict is a towering man, a beast of a man, and Rick Obamswin, a very proud man, but not the same size. But Steve was like, I'm so glad you guys sounded the way you did, the way you do. And yeah, I've always had another opinion of us. As a musician, I'm always critiquing everything we're doing, and as I make stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I can't listen to that. And, over the years, things have been matriculating in different directions for us, where we just sang for the Nolan Peak Festival down in Turners Falls, Massachusetts, and there was a massacre of 266 Narragansetts that were there as refugees in the southernmost point of Abenaki territory, and they were killed over a stolen cow in Greenfield. But later on, and that's where my ancestors used to go and raid from Forge Can't Leave. So it's an interesting thing to think about. When I'm there, the ancestral and the spiritual connection is very powerful, especially when I could bore you for hours just talking about some of the different things that I've experienced down there, and I'm trying to get away from that. But it's been an amazing experience. So there's Mystic River was one of the best drum groups in the Northeast, hailing out of Mashantucket. Kenny Merritt Jr. teaching kids, and those guys singing alongside of them. Well, we've never been a competition drum. I've always wanted to be a good traditional drum and bring what we have and let the energy flow that way. But we've sung alongside of Black Bear, one of the best. We've sung alongside of Eastern Eagle. Some of the guys from Eastern Eagle have sung with us when we've been up there. So I'm very honored for those experiences that we've had. But there I was, knowing that I was going to be most likely singing alongside of Iron River, which is a great drum group for the Massachusetts area. Mm-hmm. And Wiscasoni was, and I think there's like the remnants of the kids that were learning from Kenny Merritt Jr. So I thought, great, we get to sing alongside of them, and those are young kids, and my guys are older, and there was only 3 of us. But I showed up, and it was only 3 of them. And it was 3 of us. It was more of an exhibition. It wasn't really a powwow. And we held our own, and we hadn't played together in a year, it's because of the pandemic and the way things have been. Right. But the energy that day was just absolutely, you could imagine starting a song and thinking, somebody asked me for the 3rd line, I wouldn't be able to do it. But to start it and sing it loud and proud with that energy, and the drum was just singing, like supporting us. It was a rather amazing experience.
It just came right out.
It just came right on out. Yeah. So in a nutshell, that's, I just yapped your ear off for 10 minutes anyway.
That's fine. That's fine.
So that's pretty much us in a nutshell. You know what I mean? I can get into more specifics if you want, especially, what I'm doing. Lately, I've been doing more contemporary music, but yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you get into the process of making music? Like, what do you do?
for the traditional songs, the stuff that I'm doing on the powwow drum, almost all of it has been as if I was singing it almost Southern style, you know, like powwow style, where there's a lead, a call back to the lead. You know, my Berkeley mind kind of kicking in here. You know, Northern songs have different embellishments and more variable lines off of the lead, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I've been doing Southern songs because it's easy, Southern style songs, because that was closer to what we had, but it's also, I mean, it's a dynamic group, you know, trying to find people that, you know, so, you know, go to a bank and say, hey, I'm going to start a business where I'm performing songs in a language that people don't speak. Can you lend me money so I can produce a CD? You know, and just trying to find people. So the songs are slightly simpler, but more in that Southern style. And if I can't remember the song the next day, then I just forget the song. You know, I mean, it's not worth doing it. You know, mm-hmm. A couple of songs have been done with a guitar. You know, I was just looking for inspiration, but on that same idea. But the ones that I write, you know, specifically for the powwow drum, where I'm not using another instrument to help me out, and then I have to find the chords because I'm kind of playing those now. It's I use a lot. I mean, obviously I'm in the same key, but I'm using chord progressions that I never would have thought I was using. But it's just a conscious, like I'm trying to embellish this melody and make this work, you know, coming out of it. And being what we're doing, you know, some of the songs are written as Northern style songs with Northern honor beats, and some are done with the Southern honor beats, you know. But like I said, much of what we're doing is just trying, you know, pumping pride in people when they hear the new songs, because the culture is in the language and the language is in the song. So you know, I said to somebody, I don't speak Abenaki, and they went, but you sing it. You know, it's just another one of those profound little, I never really thought of it like that, you know. And, you know, I've been in talks with different people about language preservation. You know, the Abenaki people, we had over 100 years worth of war with our oppressors, and that's not including the Mohawk Wars, which preceded it, or the War of 1812, you know, which came after that. But we still, I mean, we're losing some of the last few lineal speakers of the language. Mm-hmm. But Jesse Bruchak, who's been teaching the language, taught his son, his first language was Abenaki.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And then just before he went to kindergarten, they started speaking to him in English. So he and his sister, who's older, they're both pretty much fluent speakers. I mean, the language is so complicated to say you're a fluent speaker is no, but they're more than conversational within the language. So to see that and watch a growing movement of new language speakers, and know that because of what I'm doing, people were drawn into it, is, yeah, that's what I'm all about. Then, anyways, you know, I'm not worried about winning a competition someplace, you know.
Right. Well, the preservation of the language is so meaningful to everybody. It's very meaningful for the tribe and individual people, but it's to all the rest of the people as well. The language being alive is so necessary to the continuation.
Breathing life into the language is huge. It's one thing to breathe life into it or to sing it. It's a whole other thing to experience people learning to speak in the language. So I've done the Middlebury language immersion program for the 3 years that it's been running. Plan on going next year. This year, life didn't allow me to spend a lot of time studying, but I taught myself to think like an Algonquin speaker. Like, if I had to say that, if I needed to say this, if I was obsessing on something, I'd be like, how would I say that in Abenaki? How would an Algonquin speaker say that? I don't want to translate it as something in English into Abenaki. What would I use as an Algonquin speaker? And that really helped me. Like, people were like, wow, you're like 5 times better with your language this year. And I'm like, yeah, with my 10 words that I know how to use in all these different ways. But yeah.
And the way they string together.
What experience that was. And to see people that have started that are really into it and understanding the language and the complexity, you think, absolutely amazing. Yeah. It's a good time to be alive and be around doing what we're doing. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Bryan, I got to ask, you know, what was the secret message, you know, some time ago to formulate and put together the Black Hawk Singers? What was it a letter in the mailbox? Was it a neighbor? Was it a veteran music manager who told you to formulate it?
It was really, I had been a drum keeper for a band of Wampanoags, and that didn't work out. And then I was the drum keeper and lead singer with a group of other guys, but it really wasn't my drum. And I realized, no, that's not going to work out. I'm not one to be able to. I needed my own drum. And it was interesting because when I took my own drum up to Abenaki, that's where I decided to buy one through Crazy Crow, and it arrived via FedEx on the heels of one of the biggest thunderstorms we've ever had. I mean, it was like thunder and loud lightning all night long. Next morning, there's a FedEx truck with the drum. I went, oh my God.
And the birds brought it in.
The birds, yeah. So the name comes from my daughter Raven. I wasn't going to call us the Raven Singers, but Black Hawk is kind of a derogatory term. She was so excited that I had another drum again. And then my son and I, who was 14 at the time, we went up to Abenaki because there was a man doing ceremonies that I knew from that Rhode Island southern, that southern area, for a southern New England area. And he was doing ceremonies up at Abenaki. And I had no idea where he was, and I'd never been to Abenaki, but I was taking the drum up there. And of course, by mistake, I left my license at home. And when I got to the Canadian border, they gave me exit papers. Yeah. So it turned me right around. They said, we're doing this so that the United States will let you know. But if they'll let you back in, we'll allow you on your way. Because I'm showing them my travel card, and they're going, oh, no, you can go anywhere. They were dancing back and forth. They made us go inside on the U.S. side, and my son at 14 said, Canada wants you to call them and let them know it's okay for us to come back. And that was the exact expression I have. I'm like, I can't believe. Now, mind you, we're a family drum. All this stuff is happening, and all the connections are being made. And sure enough, they let us on our way. And I'm like, oh no, I'm driving in Canada without a license. But we got up there, and the man doing the ceremony was just like, I need you. I can awaken your drum. Do you have a pipe song for me? And I go, yeah, we'll do a Narragansett pipe song. And I opened it up with another father and son. And it was just absolutely magical from there on out. I don't want to get too sidetracked on you.
So to switch gears a little bit, I'm curious, how do you, because you're doing more modern music now, more not necessarily as traditional, how do you blend the native traditional stuff into your modern music, or do you do that?
Well, no, our people wouldn't have. Algonquin people, we didn't have stringed instruments, right? So you can't really call that. But we're clearly using that in contemporary native music nowadays, right? Especially, acoustic guitar and things along those lines, almost a bluegrassy feel. I think much of what I'm doing, I don't like writing cliche types of. I'm really critical of my melodies. And I don't want it to be cliche, that A minor, but I am using that A minor, E minor chord progression as, the relative minor coming out of certain songs to change things up. I'm conscious of that. Most of it's in the language, like our people would have been using pentatonic scales, right? So if I'm singing in a pentatonic scale and I'm singing in the language, then, it's, we can call this native music, really, right? And I have a guy right now that's working with me. My bass player is 70, is in his early 70s, and he's my neighbor. And he's like, I call him my Irish elder. That's the guy I turn to when I need to talk to somebody. And I have a guy playing djembe, because I wanted that tribal type of thing. I didn't want like traditional kit drum. And he's amazing, but we sat him in front of a drum kit, pulled the snare out, and set down the djembe. And he can chunk the kick drum and the hi-hat, and he plays off of my singing. So we're really starting to develop this sweet little groove that I like. And I've been forced to pick up duties playing lead guitar. So, and I want to incorporate, the guy doing djembe, so he does drum circles. And I want him playing more like like hand drum and stuff like that, because for me to switch from guitar to hand drum and singing, it's difficult to get back up and going. So, I mean, we've got ideas for incorporating more into it, but the kick drum he's playing on has a hi-hat on it. I put a hi-hat on it. So I didn't want to take a powwow drum and turn it on its side because that symbolizes something. So I took a kick drum and put a head on it, and we got sweetgrass on it. We're respectful of it. I know it's a bit of a hybrid. We haven't had a ceremony on the kick drum yet, but other than that, I love the way that type of stuff sounds, like watching somebody playing with their hands, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, whenever you have some pieces that you really like, you should send them to us so we can play them too.
I have like half a CD recorded at one of the finest studios in the Northeast with an engineer that worked 30 years on Broadway, 24-track recording with some of the best musicians in the area. But I vowed, and I did that. The last of the recordings were in early February of 2020. And I vowed not to release a CD in the middle of a pandemic because I was part of saving an old Pocasset village, and the wording coming from William Bradford when he sent Winslow and Hopkins to see Massasoit for the first time. It reads, "Soon upon crossing a forge in the Taunton River, they came across a most horrific sight, the remains of thousands of Wampanoags still lying on the ground, who died 3 years previous of the bloody nose disease, 3 years previous to the British ever coming to these soils. So many so that those who survived were unable to bury the dead." And then going into a pandemic, I went, no, I can't. It's been killing me. I've just been sitting on it. Like, let's kind of get on the other side. Just the stigma of that is not something I want to be part of. And I've been mixing the other stuff, but it's very frustrating to not be able to take something live.
Yeah.
You have a recording. I can do this great stuff in a recording. And I think I sound better live than I do in a studio sometimes. I love that energy, especially powwow related. But to be able to bring that out. But I'm getting past that because I'm getting frustrated, and the pandemic is coming to an end. And I have some stuff I could send, and I just got to get better on the other side of that, and become more. Stop being a traditional singer and thinking, I got to market myself. You're not supposed to do that as a traditional singer. Most people don't go. I mean, they'll do stuff on Facebook or something along those lines. But there's a certain protocol you can kind of follow in this. It's like I translated "Let It Be" into the Abenaki language and played it and performed it for the final project for this year's Middlebury language immersion. And I started off pretty fast, at a decent tempo, but then the energy in it I kicked off like I was doing a powwow song. And we were at Nolan Beaker, the guys were asking, hey, can we do that on the drum? And I went, oh, I don't know. I don't think that's something that people are ready to accept right now. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm kind of looking around and I'm getting the same faces I'm seeing from the two of you. And I went, maybe next year we'll actually do something like that. And cool. And I had people telling me, oh, you sing like an opera singer. You should be singing with marbles in your mouth. And I wound up talking to a couple of people about that. And they went, no, they don't know what they're talking about. They're listening like traditional people from Lakota people. And they're listening to the old singers on wax recordings who can't sing anymore. You sing just the way you sing. Our people could sing. I went, oh, okay, so I will. So it's like creating a whole nother. We've really been creating a whole new genre. Like Eastern contemporary, I guess is what you would call it, And when we first started, I had an MC go, hey, so what are you guys doing lately? And I told him what we're doing. He goes, how's that working out? Sarcastically. And I went, well, actually pretty good.
It's good to keep creating and making things new. And it is hard when you don't have an audience reaction. But yeah, I think that I think we're all ready for some stuff. So
I think we are too. Yeah. No, I'm building up. I'm gearing up this winter for next year. Yeah, it's just how I'm looking at it. Yeah, next year is going to be a much better year than this one was. I mean, only a handful of powwows here up in the Northeast this year, when there's 3 or 4 a weekend, and there used to be a calendar so that there was only one powwow each weekend. So it's rather taboo to have 3 or 4. So now if there's a powwow, oh, we got a powwow this weekend.
Bryan, I got to ask, and there's a lot of artists that are going to be watching this interview, especially artists that are coming up on the rise that don't have nearly the amount of experience that you have. And it's one of my favorite questions to ask, how does music help you heal from, our everyday traumatic aspects and ways of life that are introduced and brought to us?
Well, when I play, what did I just say earlier that, I'll start a song and sometimes if you ask me to recite the third line, that there's always a lead to call back to the lead, and then that third line that's coming in. I wouldn't be able to tell you on most of the songs that we just sang, but I do know that when I start the song, those lines are going to come to me. And I don't want to sound like I'm doing yoga or something, but there's this state when you're performing and you're listening to yourself. You know what I mean? But enjoying it, not listening to critique, just enjoying it. That's where and that's the only time that release can come. And I live for those moments, whether I'm playing, traditional or contemporary or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then seeing the responses on people's faces, when you're done, because so much of what I'm doing, people have never heard before. Let It Be in the Abenaki language for the first time.
Yeah.
Really, right?
That's a great choice of songs to translate as well. It resonates.
Well, backstory on that, I was having a hard time with something, and Jesse said, Bryan, there's one word in our language for this. And I was supposed to be speaking with Abenaki, but I was just so distraught about something that he went, Pony Dalhonzi. So our language is constructed, and I believe the Algonquin language goes all the way out to the West Coast. But so that would be very similar for a lot of people. Pony Dalhonzi, which means the thought that you pony means lay down a trap, and Dahon is the heart of your mind, and Z referring to yourself. So lay down the heart of your mind. Just put it down. And I went, so I was looking for something else, and I came across Somowi Moli, which means the Blessed Virgin Mary. And I went, oh my God, I have much of the song here already. Let's just do this, because my Dahom was terrible. And somebody said, I thought you were writing a new song. And I went, Mazi Dahom, Mazi Linton Gon, which means bad mind, bad heart of the mind, bad song.
Wow. That's great. Will you say the word? Will you say the word one more time for Let It Be? Pony Dalhonzi.
So it creates, the chorus is a little different. I have people play, like a piano keyboard player playing, and he goes, wait a minute. And he Googles Let It Be, and he's playing it, and he's going, yeah, but you've elongated the chorus. I go, I know, but it sounds pretty cool, doesn't it?
It does.
Just go with it, And he loved it. And on the guitar, where I can just take my energy and bring it up, like, long time ago, somebody told me that I sounded like a warrior singing. And I think that's some of the mindset that I have, Let me get back to the question at hand. So I varied.
No problem.
Right? Follow your heart. Follow what makes sense to you when you're doing something. But breaking away from all that stuff, it's in the music. It's in the enjoyment of performing the music, where you break away from everything else. All the other stuff you have to deal with, especially on the business end, will kill you. Yeah. Because everybody out there, I don't care how traditional they say they are, they want something of what you've got. You know what I mean? People are only happy when you're giving them what they want. And that certainly happens in any music industry. We all know that, going to a powwow and getting shortchanged or dealing with powwow politics or anything along those lines. It happens everywhere.
Everywhere. Yes, it does. Yeah. Well, what would you say, or what advice would you give to up and coming Native artists or other Natives who would like to learn traditional music but are afraid to? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I don't understand why anybody would be afraid of learning traditional songs. Taking a traditional song and a medicine song or a healing song or somebody's family song. When I started singing, you asked permission from everybody. Hey, can I do that song? Can I do that song? Now everybody's learning songs off of YouTube. You know, a lot of it is stick work. You know, with competition drums, they're learning particular stick work. But yeah, I see, as long as you're respectful with it, you know, like I know somebody up here that advertised that we're going to be singing traditional songs at a bar. And I feel like, you can't do that. You know, I went, oh my God, you know, the things that'll make you go, whoa, you know, but yeah, no, if we don't learn the old songs, who's going to remember them? So I have a friend of mine who's a Medewan who gave me an LP from like the early 1900s, 1920s, something like that, and I used isotope to clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
And this was years ago, so it was a much older version of isotope. And he gave that to some Iroquois friends of his, and the song was The War of 1812. And what was told to him was that they had lost that song. People stopped singing it, they forgot about it. And doing what I did, allowing him to do it, they brought the song back. So, but my thoughts on that is, no, sing the song. Just be respectful of where you sing them or who you sing them for. And if it's not your tribe's song, you might want to have permission, especially if they're revered songs. You know, pay attention to what you're doing with that, really, right?
Yeah.
It's probably the best. There's a much different way of looking at things nowadays for a lot of up and coming singers than when I was starting out. Like, the internet was relatively young, and people were like, well, if it's on the internet, then it doesn't matter anymore. And I went, no, it still matters. It still matters.
We got one last question, because I know your bright gold tour bus is waiting for you in front of your house to embark on your big national tour here. But last question here, Bryan from Blackhawk Singers. It's been an honor and a pleasure to talk to you here today from Seattle. What's next for Blackhawk Singers? How can they follow you, and how can they continue to support the movement, please?
That's a good question. You know, I have down to 3 guys right now. Love to get some more singers. You know what I mean? Pick this up, but I've got to see. We're making plans for next year as to where we're going to be playing. Come
to Seattle.
We can work that out. Yeah, I'm sure we'd love to. I got a couple of guys who would really enjoy that, and I know
start off the world tour here. So,
want to get back up to Abenaki and sing up there. Really, you know, that means a lot to me. I was just up there a few weeks ago, and when you have, like, I tell people that Native people, you could go years without seeing them. True Native people, you can go years without seeing them. And then when you finally get a chance to see them, you're literally picking up right where you left off. Like, there's been no time differential, really, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're living amongst a lot of people of European descent, and you're dealing with that dahome, English moni we dahome, really. Not that you forget it, you forget that fact, but you start to doubt what it's going to be like when you finally get a chance to go back up there. And it was like going home, you know, and that's what's more important to me. Than anything like that is more important than a world tour. I wouldn't want to give up that for the world tour. So those are the types of things we're going to be looking for next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, any way that we could support you here at the Daybreak Star Radio Network. That's why the station was created, to give existing artists, new artists, the voice that they deserve and recognize and respect. You know, because there's not too many stations that, in my opinion, worth, that are performing like us. So we're Sherry and I are very proud of what we've created up to this point and the journey that we have ahead. So it's an honor to speak to you, Bryan.
It's an honor to speak to the two of you. Yeah, I never think of myself in this way. I got to like that right now. So I don't want to mess up that traditional, the ancestral energy, the ancestral flow. And when the affirmations keep coming, can I share one more little story? We get time for that?
Please do. Yes.
Okay. So the tribal leadership kind of up at Odanak kind of goes back and forth between the Watso and the Bomswin family. And a Medewan friend of mine, through ceremony, was told that they need to bring a wampum belt back up to Odanak. And early on in our adventures up there, with the first drum that we had, Jacques Watso sitting down singing with us, and he starts talking about the story of this belt that he received from a man in Fall River, Massachusetts. And that my eyes literally just started popping out of my head. I could feel the hair on the back of my neck raising. And he opens it up, and there's a wampum belt. And I went, I knew that this belt was coming here before you did. I was just like literally blown away, watching that. But then the best part came. We wrapped it up. It was our turn to sing. We were just doing the Southern Intertribal. And there were two eagles. Now, there are a lot of eagles up there, but there were two eagles doing a courtship dance, maybe 100 feet away and 100 feet in the air. And now everybody's dancing on the grass. And every time we got to the top of we came back to start the push-up again, the eagles were closer and lower until they were like 40 feet directly above us. And you could see the dancers going like this, calling the eagles, really. And when we stopped, they flew away. And I wound up talking to a friend of mine who I played guitar with when we were in high school, and I was telling him about my experience, and he went, Bryan, you can't get that in a bar. I go, no, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they were listening.
They were listening. Yeah. We're not Eastern Eagle and we're not Mystic River, but we don't have to be.
No.
And I think that's probably something people can just kind of take from as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sing loud, sing proud, and you'll do just fine.
Yeah, and it's especially for everybody who's in urban centers. I think sometimes we get disconnected from our animal relatives. And so to have that come back and be able to be a part of that is a huge blessing.
Oh, yeah. No, I live for moments like that. I try not to talk too much about them, but yeah, that's when I go, all right, I'm still doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah, okay, there's my sign that you're still doing what you're supposed to be doing, And when people ask me, like, no, I can't. I mean, I started out my journey with a Medewan. Teach me. So Bobby Charlebois, who helped me with my genealogy, is a Medewan. Hopefully most people know what I'm talking about when I say Medewan, Mediwin, and all. And I saw the power of what can happen around a drum. I can keep going. Like I said, I keep going with those stories, and I've always respected the drum and what's happening and the energy around it, making sure that the people who come to it are in the right mindset. Some people say, yeah, but when I'm here, I'll feel fine after I'm here. I'm like, no, it's that whole time frame where you're not right, and all that energy is just resonating out through the drum. Your mind is not settled. It's taken us forever to get to where we need to be, and all that bad energy has gone out to all that bad intent has gone out there. Keep bringing in and do what you're supposed. And I've seen it the other way on me, where I could sung with somebody, my mind, hope my mind was where it should be, but it wasn't. And my affirmation was I could just feel it. You know what I'm saying? And just respectful of the guys, and just step away. Like that's not your day for that.
Yeah.
You're done preaching.
It's great. Thank you for the preaching, and thank you for the extra story as well. Thank you for keeping the language alive and to doing all that you're doing.
Well, we're going to do more than keep it alive. We're blowing a lot more life into it. I was told, be careful where you step because you leave a big footprint. Well, I'm stomping wherever I can possibly go. That's been my mantra ever since. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
I will.